All right, welcome back in here to Live Now from Fox. I am Andy Mack. As we enter another new week, a looming partial government shutdown on the not-so-distant horizon, and a bitter battle set over funding for the Department of Homeland Security. A live look there at the Senate floor as Democrats and Republicans still pretty far apart on all of these negotiations, as Bill Malugin reporting from Capitol Hill saying Congress has until the end of Friday to reach a deal on DHS funding, and Republicans are calling some demands non-starters. Now, some Dems are worried that the ICE body cams will be used to surveil anti-ICE protesters, and they want restrictions on how the cameras can be used. Let's continue on here on Live Now from Fox and bring into the conversation Vice Presidents of Programs at the Conservative Partnership Institute, Rachel Bovard. Thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. And when we had this initial 2-week stopgap put in place, there was going to be negotiations. Was that too ambitious from the first point?
I don't think it was, simply because of what is actually in this bill. Don't forget that Customs and Border Patrol and ICE have already been fully funded. That was done in the reconciliation bill that Republicans passed earlier this year. It's actually a very sharp take from them, because now what they forced Democrats to fight over in this DHS bill is funding for FEMA, funding for TSA, funding for things people actually need and don't want to be inconvenienced with. So I actually think it was very smart for Republicans to put a very short timetable on this and force Democrats to the table.
And we saw when it was moving through that very short partial shutdown last time, they kind of split it apart, taking the DHS component out of it. They might do a similar fashion with this one, taking kind of the ICE, the Border Patrol out of it and funding FEMA, the other organizations, agencies you mentioned. Is that a possibility? Is that real?
It is possible, although if I were the Republicans, I would say, look, this is it, Democrats. I'm going to keep everything together, and everything that follows from the shutdown. If people are inconvenienced at the airport, if, the East Coast, which was just put under all that big snowstorm, if they can't get FEMA relief, well, that's on you. This is how hardball politics are played. If they want a deal, Democrats are going to have to come up with some language.
And we saw during that last partial shutdown that President Trump guiding what was going on with the Republicans about what they should do. What is the White House saying about this, and how much does the Trump sign-off mean in terms of this? Does it go through the White House to get this funding passed?
It does seem like Trump is giving congressional leadership some pretty big latitude in figuring out the parameters of what this deal will look like. But ultimately, I don't see Republicans signing off on anything that the president hasn't weighed in on, hasn't seen, hasn't given his, stamp of approval or imprimatur to. As far as I can tell, Democrats, demanded this time to negotiate, but they haven't been very forthcoming in terms of what that language is going to look like, other than perhaps, requiring body cams, which the GOP has said, hey, we support.
Yeah, and we heard some of those red lines, some of those non-starters. John Thune said it in reference to potential judicial warrants out there, the end of roving patrols. Are those non-starters in your eyes? Is that something that Republicans won't even come to the table for?
Judicial warrants would effectively hamstring ICE. This is not an attempt to, make enforcement safer or better or more efficient or more transparent even. This is an attempt to cripple law enforcement and to ensure that our immigration laws are not enforced at all. And so I do think it's appropriate to tell Democrats, no, that's a non-starter. In this country, laws get enforced, and we cannot be literally crippling the people on the front lines to do so. So I think it's right to rule that out and to say, look, Democrats, this shutdown is on you. Immigration enforcement, they've already been funded. If you want to shut down TSA, if you want to shut down FEMA and strip resources from the American people, well, that's on you.
And I don't think anyone wants a government shutdown, a partial one at all, coming into this weekend. Is a continuing resolution another one on the table? And how do they transition from trying to fund this DHS through September versus just making another stopgap measure?
I suspect if the two sides can't agree, on any kind of parameters, that another CR is what's going to be on the table. If you remember, during the first Trump administration, we had a very similar shutdown where DHS was again the focal point, and that's how that one ended. Democrats, after shutting the government down over immigration enforcement, ended up agreeing to a year-long CR for DHS. I think that's what might happen here as well, but we'll see. It wouldn't be the first time.
And obviously, Republicans also prioritizing, especially on the House side, the Save America Act. Do you think that prioritization is wrong in any way? Do you think the timelines of this match up, or do you think the House should proceed as it is with a potentially partial shutdown on the horizon?
I think it's totally appropriate for the House to proceed to this and the Senate as well. And when we're talking about the Save America Act, we're talking about voter ID, requiring ID to vote, requiring only citizens can vote. So you have to provide proof of citizens to register, and that states get non citizens off their voter rolls. This is kind of an existential question to elections. We've seen polling upwards of 80% of the public support these ideas, and that includes majority of Democrats. So this is actually an issue that unifies the country. This is exactly what we're talking about Congress. If they're going to spend time on anything, these are the issues they should be spending time on. So it seems to me like a prudent thing to do.
And obviously prioritizing what is important, what's right in front of you. And of course, later on this week, there's scheduled to be potentially some international trips for different members, different lawmakers around the world. In your eyes, obviously with this and then the President's Day next week, the holiday for them, would it be prudent for lawmakers to cancel these trips to show the American people that they are prioritizing funding the government, they are prioritizing the Save America Act?
I have long been a proponent of Congress skipping their scheduled recesses and staying in town to get things done. I think they take too many of them. But on the other hand, I do think that the Munich Security Conference is so important to Republicans and to Democrats that it may actually prompt a deal so they can get it done before they leave. But we'll see. If they don't have one, I do think it would be smart to stay in town.
All right, Rachel, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, your insight here on Live Now from Fox. We'll see where we stand at the end of this week. I appreciate you again.